All right, everyone, this is Dr. Brian from Genesis Chiropractic Software. We have a new document, a new X-Doc for you. We've got a lot of people that request that do a lot of different types of rehab. Maybe it's like a CBP type practice, or maybe they have a physical therapist in the practice, and it's what's called a flow sheet typically in physical therapy, but it's very similar to what you would need in your therapy area of your chiropractic practice, maybe doing tractions and things like that. So I have on the Hangout with me Erez Larav, who is partner at Genesis. He's the technology guy behind this all. So we're just going to go over the functionality of what the flow sheet is and how you can use it in your practice. I think you're going to really like it. So, and you know, of course, just shoot us a task anytime if you can think of any improvements that we can make. Okay, so Erez.
All right, thanks, Brian.
Doing this.
So the main idea with the daily flow sheet is to be able to very quickly see what exercises and or treatments you have set up and configured for each patient as they come into the office, and then be able to check off the exercise and treatments that were actually done during that visit and generate a narrative for today that you could use to send to insurance for auditing purposes or anything else. And then there's also a way to set up the initial flow sheet on day one. So you could use macros and things like that really quickly to populate the initial set of exercises, or just put them in manually. So let's say that you've pulled up the patient, you have the travel card open. As usual, we have the docs tab where all the X-docs live. This patient already has a whole bunch of daily flow sheets created. So we're just now in a follow-up visit, and we're just going to create a new daily flow sheet that will pull all the information from where they were last time, so you could very quickly check it off. So I go to New X-Doc, and I can either use the tags here. If I look at PT, there's the daily flow sheet, or I could have done a filter over here if I just put in daily there, and it will pull up the daily flow sheet. I click on that, and it's going to create the X-Doc template and pull it up for me, and also pull in all the information from last time. So I have a summary section on the daily flow sheet on the top that shows me really quickly all of the treatments and or exercises that are currently configured and what the patient is supposed to be doing. This is all from the last visit, so 3 sets of 5 reps. Anything else that's in there, notes, anything like that is going to show up. This is a very, very quick way to see exactly what the patient is supposed to be doing.
Hey, Rez, are those
Yep.
what were actually done in the last visit, or are those the ones that, all of the ones that are entered?
Those are all the ones that are entered.
Okay, so we'll go over how to enter and add exercise here in a second.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So basically when you click on any one of these, it's going to scroll you down to that section. But if you're going into, let's say, you're just pulling this up for visit number 5 or whatever, you can easily just scroll through these, and you can individually check the exercises as they're doing them. So by default, all the information carries over from the last date. So their sets, their reps, what they're doing. So you can see exactly what they're doing. You can also look at the history too. So on the left side of the page, there's a whole history of the last 6, I think it's, yep, 6 visits. So you can see their progression over time, any kind of notes that you have. And so basically you're going through these and just clicking through as they're doing their treatments, their exercises. If you need to make any modifications, let's say today they're going to do sets of 7 reps, you could update that, and that will update over here on the narrative. So this narrative is for today's visit, and then these are for the previous dates that have the date marked on top. If you wanted to add a new exercise, you could easily do that. So let's say push-ups, and we do 3 sets of 10. And then you can say, yep, they did that today as well. And that'll be over here on the right side.
Okay, Rez, a quick question for everybody. So just to reiterate, what you're saying now is that by default, when you open up this note, again, it's going to have everything, all the exercises are going to be there from the previous visit, but to make sure they show up in the narrative and in the history on the right side of the left side of the screen. You have to click that little checkbox, and that'll
Yep.
that'll make
Checkbox
it.
basically just indicates that they've done that day. So let's say they did everything here except for the cat crawls. You could just not check the cat crawls as you're going through, and that'll eliminate them from the right side. So it doesn't show that they've done the cat crawls that day, but you'll still be able to see that cat crawls is something that they should be doing on a daily basis, or most of the time at least, so that you could easily click it in on their next visit.
Gotcha. All right. So the little checkbox on the very top, is that a check all button? Or?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, if you click that, that'll just turn everything on. So if they're doing all their exercises and you just want to quickly say that they did everything, you just click that. It'll turn everything on for you.
So how do they get to this now that this is the docs tab, if they're on the travel card already, which most docs are using?
So travel card, docs tag. The important thing is to make sure that you create a new document for every visit. So every time they come in and you're going to do a new, it's just like a new sheet of paper. You're just going to, put a new one, just do new XDoc, and then click that button, and that will open up a new version of that document. It will still pull in all the information. It'll show all the history. So all of the functionality here will still work and show up and have all that history in there. But the important thing is it'll know that it's a new date of service. So by default, all of these things are going to be unchecked. And then you'll be able to just click through the ones that the patient actually did that day.
Yeah, I think that's important because it's a question / mistake I think docs were making when we were in beta with this. So it's, I think, worth repeating that if you go back to the docs list, if it's a new visit and you're going into it, you don't go into an old doc and start editing that. You again go to new XDoc, go to flow sheet, and open that up. Just like Arez said, that'll pull the information from the last flow sheet that you did. So don't make the mistake of trying to edit an old one and think that's today's note.
Right.
So okay, cool.
And because they're generating, each one of these generates just a separate narrative for that day, you could just grab a bunch of these and do print, and that'll generate just the narratives for those dates of service, one after the other. So that's the whole idea of having one document per visit. So there you're not you don't have to worry about resetting at the end. If you had one document for multiple visits, then you have a certain number, you have to keep track of that. This way it's really, really simple and it just always works correctly.
Right. Anything else we should go over? Of course, when you select those, you can also send a fax and do all that kind of stuff. Oh, how about viewing, if you're in a new one or an existing one, setting up macros? I know we have videos on that, but worth just quickly going over that again here.
Let me get a different test patient up here. So let's say that I'm creating a brand new PT flow template or document for brand new patients. So there's no history, and I want to just load a bunch of exercises. One way to do that is to actually load macros. I don't have any. I don't think I have any configured for this particular practice. But
let's build a macro and then go into a different patient. Just add like 2 or 3 exercises.
Sure. All right. So let's say I have push-ups, and I'm not even going to set the sets and reps because those are probably going to be specific for each patient. Right now, I'm going to just be very, very general. So let's say I do push-ups, sit-ups.
Let's do pull-ups.
Ups.
Cool.
Let's say squat jumps. All right. And these are the set of, let's say, 4 exercises. I could do up to, I think, 30 exercises. The list is pretty long, so I could just keep filling them in and then set up my macro. And you could set up different macros for different types of injuries or different goals. So you can have, legs, or you can have upper body, or you could do it based on.
So how do they save that now?
So up here, this is the macro button. You're just going to click that. You're going to save macros. Exercises 1.
Mhm.
And now that macro has been saved.
All right, so now let's go to a different test patient, if we can, and just pull it up and unload it. Let's show them on a blank. And yet another patient we have now. We're going to go to the Docs tab, New XDoc, Flow Sheet. Now Red's going to load that macro that we just created. I think he put it there. So now we can see that one we just created. Go slow, go slow.
Yep. That was
Load.
over here.
There it is, exercises. So.
And all right, here they are.
Okay, so you click that macro, and now we can see that on this totally different patient, those exercises added to the flow sheet. So again, you can save as many macros as you want. You may have a PI cervical, you may have a, all kind of knee injury, that you have certain protocols that you do, and maybe sometimes, just because you load the macro doesn't mean you have to use all those exercises, right? So you can just load them up and just select the ones that you want to do for that patient. So it makes it real quick. Anything else? Do you need to show the view history for this thing, or that doesn't really pertain to this?
No, I think that's, yeah, it already has a built-in history.
Right.
So you could look at history for sets and reps, but it's easier just to look at it all at once on the right side.
Right. Okay. Well, all right. That was awesome. So this is I think a lot of docs are already using this. They're getting a lot of value out of it. So cool. Thanks for hanging
Awesome.
out.
Thank you. All right,
right.
pleasure.
Talk to you
later.